Hello and welcome to this very special conversation right from the nerve center of the AI Impact Summit right here in New Delhi. We're coming to you from our studios, the Edge AI Studio in the heart of Bharat Mandapam. And in fact, over the last few days, we've been unpacking key conversations with top tech leaders to get a sense of where we are and where we're headed. And to help us understand is with us Mike Haley of Autodesk. Mr. Haley, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to carry on the conversation that we had last evening to this morning as well. Let me begin by talking to you about the big news point, the big news takeaway. India has joined the US-led Pax Silica Alliance. What that now basically means is that this alliance will essentially act together along with other similarly placed countries to ensure supply chain resilience for everything AI, for everything semiconductor. How significant is it for AI aspirations, especially at a time when India is looking to go big on AI?
Yeah, I think it couldn't come at a better time, frankly. So thank you for having me. I honestly believe that things like chips and processing infrastructure is rapidly becoming a public infrastructure. Just we should think of it no differently than from the way we think of an energy infrastructure or a road network. Now, the reality is, as we all know, is it's arrived very quickly on our doorstep. So the systems and the mechanisms in place to ensure that there's equal distribution of this are not there today. If you go far back in history and you look at energy infrastructure, when in the time of Edison, when it was first created, it wasn't evenly distributed. It was in the hands of a few. Right. So it's very similar to what we've been seeing in the past right now with AI. So I think the fact that India has joined it is really a message now to say it's no longer confined to the shores of the United States or the shores of China or wherever it might be. It's a worldwide, phenomenon that everybody should be getting access to. But what I think is especially interesting in India is because you guys are, I think, are really leading the global South kind of in this. You are showing a way forward. I think other countries need to see India doing this. And the fact that you've done this, they're going to start mirroring what you're doing as well. So I think it gives India an opportunity to start building out that infrastructure based on Pax Silica, being able to get access to the right GPUs, but then building out an infrastructure that's correct for India. Because the infrastructure we're building in the United States does not necessarily translate. For most of my life, I've built software in the United States, and then I've seen sometimes how it gets, they try to use it in, say, the developing world, and it doesn't match all the needs because it wasn't designed there. So the fact that this enables India to design their own local AI. I spoke to the Shabam guys, looked at their local model here, the kind of stuff that they're doing. It's very, very exciting.
Let me also just get a little color on this with respect to the data center build-out that India is now beginning to see. We've seen big investments already announced by hyperscalers, even domestic companies making big commitments towards that end, ensuring that there's data sovereignty. At a time when we're looking at this major data center build-out here, does this alliance then perhaps give assurance in the near to medium term with respect to access to chips? Advanced chips, again, very high in demand. The costing is, of course, on the higher side as well. Does this give some sense of assurance?
I think it does. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, there has to be another body that starts to make this a more fairer supply chain, right? I mean, the reality that it's dominated by a few large companies right now that just have massive capitalization is creating an imbalance. So you need an organization. So I do believe it'll help. I do believe, I think a lot of the problems is not even just the cost, it's just the availability of being able to get to them, because they're being used and consumed at such a fast pace. We even I will tell you, even in the United States, as a company that trains large AI models, I struggle to get access to these things as well. So I think something that evens the playing field, that it's not purely based on whoever happens to be at the front of the line or whoever happens to have the most money, changes that. Now I will say, I don't think processing is the only part of it though, and I think something that India has going for it, which I actually didn't know about until a few nights ago, was that India actually has an enormous amount of power. There's an enormous amount of generated power. There's a lot of green power that's getting generated in India as well. So the fact that that's already there Because, I mean, even in the United States, we're trying to play catch-up with a lot of power because we're building so many data centers, we've got to figure out how we power them. India actually has a slight excess of power right now, which I think is that coupled with the availability of GPUs, that's two of your major requirements straight away.
Let's talk Autodesk specifics. You're in various domains, and those domains couldn't be further apart. All the way from infrastructure to you have movies being made. I want to talk about the latter. When you talk about movies and content being generated, how is that now changing with AI acting as a dynamic? And how does that now sit with global concerns being expressed on synthetic content? And that leading to regulations. India, for instance, from today has introduced regulations that all synthetic content needs to be labeled. Just want to get your perspective between how AI is changing creation and what that does to regulation.
Yeah, so one of the interesting things at Autodesk, because we're in so many different industries, media and entertainment is always the industry that is the predictor of what's going to happen in other industries, right? So what we're seeing that's happening there, you're absolutely correct. They are seeing the most incredible disruption. And we're all seeing this right now. Now, the challenge in the media and entertainment space is there's kind of two perspectives. There's one perspective that the future of media is all going to be AI generated. We're going to put in a prompt and it's going to make a movie. And I guarantee you, neither you nor I ever want to watch AI-generated movies for the rest of our lives. It is taking away the creativity, right? So that's where the second camp lies. There's a second camp which is populated by creative professionals that are going, no, well, hang on. What if we just made better movies? What if we made better experiences by leveraging AI? What if we elevated this but still had the human creative element inside it, right? So now you've got a hybrid, right, of something that's created by AI and something that's created by humans. So that's where we're working. Where we're working right now, our customers are the movie studios, the creative people. We do not want to take creativity away. We want to make them more creative, be able to make better content faster, that kind of thing. So that's the first part of your question. Coming to your second part of the question about the regulation and like what we have to do around tracking and tracing AI-generated content. I love the fact that India has adopted this policy because we're actually, at Autodesk, we're big believers in putting in place the right regulations. There's absolutely the need. Now, it requires governments and standards bodies to think through what are those right legislations. In this case, tagging and labeling and watermarking content as AI-generated content and letting people know that, I think is going to be essential. We're moving into a world where it's becoming, like you said, so easy to create content for manipulating people, for doing whatever, and you can make it dynamically now as well. So if we can both solve this creative problem that I talked about, but also make sure that when content is actually delivered, that the consumer of that content is clear what they're seeing, what's the provenance of that content.
Well, that's clearly something that's beginning to take shape. Mr. Haley, I'd like to thank you once again for joining us, for taking out time from a busy week. But we'd hope to continue this conversation to learn more about you, your experiences, and, of course, Autodesk. Thank you once again.
Anytime. Thank you for having me.